Hello everyone. So today we are going to discuss about a very important batch that we are going to start with. And let me tell you some of the briefings and brief things about the app of METAacademy. All right. So on the right hand side of your screen, you can see that we are going to have and we are going to start a very new and a fresh batch of 11th as well as 12th biology, and that will be primarily for your NEET as well. So that will be a full-fledged course. That means physics, chemistry, and maths, and physics, chemistry, and biology course. All right. So basically, this batch will be for a 1 year or duration. All right. So you can see over here. So you can see that this is a 1 year grade course, and that will be for both 11th as well as 12th. And we will be providing with some of the important things like daily 3D live classes will be there, daily practice papers will be provided to you, and 3D and PDF notes will be there. So there are basically two batches, all right. So 11th ka jo batch hoga, that is called as your intercept batch, all right. And the 12th batch for biology, that will be called as the emerge batch for the NEET batch or for the NEET purpose as well. So in इस batch में basically आपको along with speciality जो है इस batch की वो ये हो जाएगी that we will be talking and discussing about we will be having, since this is a kind of a live 3D interactive class that will be going on. So we will be discussing about one of the more important aspects, and that basically includes कि यहाँ पे you can see that along with the description of the models which you can see over here, all right. So models के साथ साथ we will be talking and discussing about all the NCERT content. This will be the case, and all right. So हम पूरा का पूरा NCERT models के through cover up करेंगे, and with that will ultimately help you out in the process of revision, in the process of perceiving things very clearly and very visually, so that that is going to remain into your mind for a longer duration of time. That will be the case. So aisa hai, and we will be step by step doing all these things, all right, and in the coming session. So this batch is going to be started from 18th of May, all right, and so you can enroll yourself for this very useful and interactive lectures that will be provided by two teachers. That means one by me, which is Ankita Rai, and there's another teacher, biology teacher with perceived learning, and that is Sushmita ma'am. All right, so we both are going to carry on this useful lecture of NEET biology in a very interactive manner. All right, so this is about the this is about the course and the batch that we are going to start up with now. Kal hum logon ne, we have discussed some of the important sections and important parts of it, all right, and hum logon ne start kiya tha with the process of the human male reproductive system. Uske bare mein hum logon ne पूरा discuss kiya tha, and discussed we have seen ki kaun kaun se different parts hote hain. Now today we will be talking about and basically focusing on this section of the seminiferous tubules. तो आज सबसे पहले हम seminiferous tubule का थोड़ा section देखेंगे, cross section देखेंगे, and उसके बारे में जानेंगे, and then we will move further with the female reproductive system. All right, so this is the case. Now on your screen, which you can see over here, is basically the section of the seminiferous tubules. All right, and on the right hand side of your screen, you can see the section of the seminiferous tubule drawn over here. यहाँ पे आपको दिख रहा है. This is the section of the seminiferous tubule drawn over here. Now, seminiferous tubule, मैंने आपको कल बताया था that seminiferous tubule is one of the essential cells of the testis, where the sperms are actually going to be produced and ultimately produced. So it contains a number of cells. All right. तो ये जो cells आपको प्राइमरी cells जो दिखते हैं जिससे हमारा sperms बनता है, that basically includes the spermatogonia. So these are the immature male germ cells which will ultimately undergo the process of meiosis to give rise to sperms. So we will also be talking and discussing about the sperm formation in the process of spermatogenesis very soon with that part as well. तो ये basically दो cells इसमें primarily हमारे present होते हैं. So one is the spermatogonia cells which are found over here, and these cells which you can see over here, they are called as the Leydig cells. Just a second. These are called as the Sertoli cells. Sorry. So these are called Sertoli cells. So these cells are basically found in the inner lining. So you can see over here, you can see the presence of spermatogonia. I'll just maximize this part so that it becomes clear to you. Like this. I hope now the content will be more visualized. So you can see that we have drawn the spermatogonia and the Sertoli cells over here. So basically, spermatogonia are the immature male germ cells through which will undergo the process of meiosis and will produce sperms. And on the other hand, the Sertoli cells, they will be producing, they are the cells which are responsible for providing nourishment to male germ cells. So they basically nourishes the male germ cells. So we can just write that they provide nourishment. These are basically nourishing cells. And once these are nourishing cells, so they are going to nourish the immature male germ cells. All right, so this is the case. Every details and all those things, they have been given on the upper part over here. You can just go through it about the seminiferous tubules and all those things. All right, here. So the discussions have been provided over here. Male germ cells and Sertoli cells. That is the case. All right. Now we are going to find another very, very important cell which is found in case of the, in case of your seminiferous tubules, and that is called as the Leydig cells. All right. So Leydig cells are basically one such cells which are usually found in this space. All right. So here basically the Leydig cells are found. All right. And these are the sperms which are produced from the spermatogonia. That is the case. Now, Leydig cells, they are responsible for releasing a very important hormone, which is called as the testosterone, which is the male sex hormone. All right. So this is the case. So this is about the section of the seminiferous tubules that we have seen. Now let us just move forward with the another section. So you can see, so this is a diagrammatic representation. So this basically goes like this. All right. And again, we can like drag this part. If I just isolate this part, like for example, you can see. So this basically shows only the main part. Like this. So you can see that how does it looks like. Individual cells, if we are going to drag it out. So these are the sperms which you can see over here. And these are the spermatogonia along with the Sertoli cells over here. And this is the space actually. All right, which you can see. This is the case. This is just a section. All right. Now, moving ahead. Now, so this was all about the male reproductive system. Now let us just talk about the female reproductive system. So we will be discussing about the female reproductive system now. And for discussing that part, we can just move on with the female reproductive system part. Now. Okay, so this is basically the female reproductive system is being represented, and this is with skin. So if I just slice out the model, all right, we can just move on to this part. Just a moment. Okay. So you can see over here that this is basically the female reproductive system, and this is with skin. So we can just remove the skin part as well, and we can just maximize this part a little bit like this. So this is the first important part that we are going to look for. All right, that is the case. Now, so you can see, so this looks something like this. This is going to look like this one. All right. Now, basically, the female reproductive system is one such system which is considered to be as the important reproductive system for producing, because it contains a lot of structures, important structures like ovaries or fallopian tubes and all those things. So we will be discussing that part as well. All right. So first of all, we will be first seeing the skin part, that where it looks like. So with skin, it looks like this one. But if we will be seeing the female reproductive system individually, then it will be showing various layers. Now, this is the layer. This is basically the longitudinal section of the female reproductive system, which you can see over here. Now, let me just label all the different components first, and then we will discuss it. All right. So the very first important structure are the ovaries, which are found in case of the female reproductive system. This is the ovary, which is usually present in pair. Now, these are the mesenchymal cells, or you can say the mesenchyma, which are the mesentery that actually helps in holding the ovary with that of the uterus. All right. So this part, we can again use different color. So this part becomes the infundibulum, which has finger-like projections, as you can see over here. So this is basically infundibulum. Then this becomes the ampulla part. And of course, this becomes the isthmus part. This is the case. Clear? Apart from that, this becomes the fundic region. This bulged portion is called as the fundic region. This central region becomes the uterus part. This is basically the uterus part. So we will be first seeing it individually through labeling, and then we will just see through different parts. So this is the uterus. Then this becomes your cervix. This becomes the vagina. And this becomes the vaginal orifice or opening of the vagina, which is ultimately called as the vulva. Clear? That is the case. Now, the different layers which are found over here, we will be discussing this part as well. So this is an overall structure of the, overall labelings of the entire female reproductive system, which you can see. And these all three structures come under fallopian tube. So entire structure of entire structure of the female reproductive system is divided into different sections, starting from the ovary till the vulva part. All right. So we will be discussing each of the sections in detail. All right. So content has been written over here. So you can just see also. You can just shift this like this. All right. So basically the female reproductive system consists of some important structures like ovaries along with oviduct, which is called as the fallopian tube, uterus, cervix, vagina, located in the pelvic region. So localization was in the pelvic region. This we have already seen in the skin system part. All right. Now, basically, mammary glands are also being found. So we have seen in the skin as well. But these mammary glands are ultimately meant for production of milk during the fertilization or ovulation and the pregnancy process. That means during the birth and childcare itself. All right. So when we consider ovaries, so let me just isolate this part. Yes, if you are going to isolate this part, so you can see over here this structure. So this becomes the ovary. Clear? Now, ovary are basically one such structure which represents the primary female sex organs, which has two functions. So they are primarily responsible for producing the ovum, and they are responsible for also producing the hormones, which are called as your estrogen. So apart from producing the ovum, they are also responsible for producing steroid hormones, which are ultimately called as estrogen as well. That is the case. So they have two functions. Now you can see that the length of the ovary is usually about 2 to 4 centimeter in length, and it is usually connected to the pelvic region with the help of the ligament tissues, which are the mesenchymal cells that I've already told you. And inside structures, when you are going to see, so inside of the ovary is basically divided into two zones. So there are basically two zones which are found. One is the cortex part, which is the peripheral zone, and the other is the inner part, which is the medulla zone. Inner medullary zone is found in this case. Clear? Now, bringing back all the components. So moving ahead with the next part is basically the fallopian tube part. Just a second. Yeah. So in case of the fallopian tube, so again, we are going to isolate this part as well. So if we just isolate this part. All right. So let me just slice out this ovary. All right. Now you can see that basically this fallopian tube, it is having finger-like projections over here. All right. So since it is having finger-like projections over here, so this is basically called as the infundibulum part. All right. This is the ampulla part, and this is the isthmus part. So these are basically the parts of the fallopian tube. And ampulla region is the region where the site of fertilization takes place. Now, this infundibulum is basically responsible for collecting the ovum from the ovary once the ovulation process has taken place. So this will be collecting, since it is having finger-like projections, and these finger-like projections, they are called fimbriae over here. These are basically called fimbriae, which are going to collect it. All right. Then there is infundibulum, then ampulla, and this is the isthmus part, which is ultimately will be carrying the fertilized product zygote, and through which the passage will be created towards the uterus. है ना? ये वाला part होता है. So all the things have been written over here, that oviduct, uterus, and the vagina constitutes the female accessory ducts. So they will be included, just like in case of the males, there are female accessory ducts as well. And each fallopian tube is about 10 to 12 centimeter long, extending from each of the ovary to the uterus. And yes, the main important thing is the infundibulum is basically the part which is closest to the ovary. All right. So this is basically the part which is closest to the ovary, infundibulum, funnel shape, having finger-like projections called fimbriae, collection of the ovum after ovulation, whatever the things that I have explained. Now, infundibulum ultimately will lead into a wider cavity that will be ultimately called as the ampulla. So ampulla is basically that region which is where the site of fertilization will take place. So that is the case. Clear with that part? Now, moving ahead with the third important section, and that is basically the your third important part, which is the uterus part. All right. So for showing the uterus part, we can just isolate, or we can just use different colors for highlighting it. Like, for example, just a second. Okay. You can just drag also. Basically, 3 of the layers are there. Yeah. So 3 of the layers are there. If I just yeah. So 3 layers are primarily there. This one, and this one, innermost layer, like this. All right. So perimetrium and myometrium is visible. This one is the perimetrium part, which is the outermost layer. This one is the myometrium. And this one is the endometrium, which is the innermost layer. It's endometrium. Yeah, these are the 3 layers. So this in all these 3 layers, this is usually protective in function. So the first layer is usually protective in function. Apart from this, myometrium and endometrium has a very, very important role. So these 2 layers, they have very important roles, and those roles are that myometrium is basically responsible for exhibiting strong contractions, during the delivery of the baby. That means stronger uterine contractions are being induced from this layer itself. All right. So for isolating this part, or for showing you this part, we can just drag out this portion like this layer. So this layer, which you can see, is basically representing the myometrium. This one is the second layer, which is the myometrium, which you can see over here. Clear? Now, what about the endometrium? So endometrium layer is basically responsible for undergoing cyclical changes during the menstrual cycle process. All right. So cyclical changes in menstrual cycle process means that this is the layer which is going to break down during the menstrual cycle. All right. So we can again use this drag option for indicating, like, for example, this layer, this one. So this is the innermost layer. So the outer is this one, middle one is the myometrium over here, and the inner one is the endometrium over here. So the functions of all these three, they have been given over there. Clear? This is the case. Now, so uterus is basically considered to be as womb. All right. And this is usually your inverted pear shape. So also called as womb, which is inverted pear in shape. And uterus is ultimately going to lead into a canal, which is called as your cervical canal or cervix, which has been given over here. All right. So cervix along with vagina, if you're going to consider, so this ultimately forms a common canal, which is called as the birth canal. So the canal of the cervix is called as the cervical canal, while the canal of the cervix plus vagina, along with the vagina, they are called as the birth canal. That is the case. Clear? So this has been given over here. All right, entire information, whatever we have discussed. So this is about the female reproductive system. Now let us just take a look into the mammary glands also. So for showing you the mammary glands, we can again go back to the female reproductive skin part. All right, so this part. So you can see that mammary glands are actually the characteristic feature of all the female primates. All right, so this is a characteristic feature of all female primates, and which is usually present in the upper area, upper thoracic area, mammary glands, which are paired in number, which are usually paired, and that produces milk at the end of the gestation period or during the delivery of the baby. Now there are some of the tissues that actually comprises of the entire mammary gland, which we'll be seeing in the figure itself. All right, so let us just take a look into the figure here. Now, mammary glands usually starts up with some of the important tissues. All right, so that is the case. So in case of the important tissues of the mammary glands, if you are going to see, so you can see that this usually comprises of this fatty tissues, and along with that, it also has the presence of some glandular tissues as well. So all these tissues which you are seeing over here, all these tissues comes under the glandular part of the mammary gland. This basically comes under the glandular part of mammary gland. Why glandular part? Because all these parts are going to, some cells are going to release milk, some cells are going to store milk, some cells will be ultimately acting as that structure through which the final suction of the milk will be taken out. So this is the case, like this. So glandular part of mammary glands will be there. So this is going to start with the very first part, which is called as the mammary lobes. Now these mammary lobes will ultimately combine to give rise to mammary alveoli. Now mammary alveoli are those cells which are ultimately going to secrete milk. These are ultimately going to secrete milk. So these are the cells whose secretion is ultimately the milk. And once these milks are being released, so they have to be stored also. So they are ultimately stored in the mammary duct. And from the mammary duct, all these mammary ducts, which you can see over here, they all combine to form the mammary ampulla. And mammary ampulla ultimately combines to form the lactiferous duct. So lactiferous duct is the duct through which the milk is ultimately sucked out. So this is basically a kind of a sequence starting from the mammary lobe and ending up to the lactiferous duct, through which the final milk will be ultimately sucked out by the baby. So this is about the mammary glands that we have ultimately seen. Clear? Now, then we can also just whatever the discussions that we had, all those discussions, they have been given over here. All right. Now, again, we will be talking and discussing about a very, very important section, and that will be your external female genitalia. So just like in case of males, it was the male external genitalia. In females, we will be talking and discussing about the external female genitalia. So in case of the, external female genitalia, when we discuss about it, so there are basically 5 structures through which the entire process of release, you can say the process, these structures are basically responsible for representing the genitalia part, which will actually include the birth canal, the cervical canal, and all those things. So external female genitalia, it basically includes 5 important components, which is labia majora, before starting with labia majora, we can just start with the mons pubis part. So it starts with actually mons pubis part. It's mons pubis, then labia majora, then there is labia minora, then there is hymen, and then there is clitoris. So these are the 5 important structures of the external female genitalia. All right. So in this portion, basically, the description of all these things, they have been given over here. All right. So this basically starts with the mons pubis part, which is basically a cushion of fatty tissue that is covered by skin and the pubic hair. Then it will lead to labia majora over here. Then labia majora leading into labia minora, then hymen, and then ultimately the clitoris part. So these are all the paired fold of tissues connected to one another. All right. So the opening of the vagina, which is actually covered by a partial membrane, that is called hymen, and the clitoris is basically the tiny finger-like projection which lies at the upper junction of the 2 labia minora above the urethral opening. So these just in your examination, how it is being asked. So it is just being, the questions are being asked to rearrange the components. So that's how only you need to learn it. All right. So this is the case of the external female genitalia that we have seen. All right. Now, so this is all about your female reproductive system that we have covered up. All right. So we have successfully covered up the male reproductive system, the female reproductive system as well. In your next lecture, we will be talking about and discussing about the gametogenesis process, in which we will be discussing about the spermatogenesis and oogenesis as well. And if time permits, then we will also be discussing about the sperm structure as well. All right. So thank you very much.